Sao do Norte.
Here he is, everybody. There's John. You're now on the screen, going out to the world, John.
Hello.
Hello, world. I'm feeling very relaxed. It was quite a stressful show this morning. Just explaining to John I hadn't paid the internet bill. That was the problem. And
at least it's an easy solution.
It's an easy solution.
You got to figure it out first.
And it's funny. They don't let you have internet if you don't pay for it.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to get connected. And
what kind of place is this?
Catch-22.
But we're all sorted out now, and here we are through the miraculous setup of T-Duck here. The outside broadcast unit is in operation here in Sao Martinho Do Porto. So it's fantastic to be here. Thank you, John, for being here and joining me in agreeing to have a chat about how things are going for you and more generally. Let's put a nice blue background on this, shall we? Yeah, how was life in Ponte Lima?
I had my own adventure this morning.
Oh, go on, tell us about it.
Yeah, so, it's an important day. I'm picking up Owen. I need to drive a little bit east of Guimarães, and was all set to leave at 8:30, and the car wouldn't start. So,
oh, no. Hate it when that happens. A bit like my internet.
Yeah.
Had you paid the bill?
Well, I paid the bill, but apparently I left something on. The light was left on or something in the car.
Yes.
So it drained the battery, but it's one of those terrible feelings when you just like, oh no,
yeah,
I have places to go, things to do.
Yeah, you weren't exactly just popping down the shops, were you?
I can't just sit here. Why can't this happen on a day when it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
So I was like, it's like, this can't be happening. I don't have time for this. But then you just sort of have to collect yourself, and thank God for having friendships and connections. So I was able to call my good friend Fernando, who's helping with the garden.
Portuguese BFF.
Yeah,
right.
BFF, and he seems to know everybody. And so he, first of all, we tried to get the cords hooked up, the jumper cables, and I have a whole list of different things I'm supposed to do and get my house sorted, but jumper cables didn't make it to the list, so I didn't have any. So he did, but everything's so electronic these days in the car. So obviously, when you park the car, you put it in park and you put the emergency brake on. But if you need to move the car to facilitate the jumper cables, you put it in neutral. And this is an ad for having a manual transmission where that's not an issue, but with the electronic automatic transmission, with no power, how do you get the car in the? You've
just got a very big paperweight.
Yeah, you can't get the car in a neutral. So there must be some YouTube video out there.
Oh, a little hack for making that happen.
Yeah, how to get your car into neutral when you have a dead battery.
Yeah,
and not just any car, but everything's so specific these days.
I see. So where you've parked it
was in the carport.
But too far away, and you couldn't roll it.
Yeah. So we did manage to get his car up next to me, but it was like really, really narrow.
Yeah.
And anyway, we had some difficulty with that because I'm not a professional mechanic and whatnot. We're supposed to leave it connected for like 10 minutes.
Yes.
And then
our producer's just stepping in to get the microphone a bit closer to you. He's all right. He's good.
Wink. Yeah. But so it wouldn't turn over. So he called his mechanic friend who came over, and they said, yeah, you just need to leave it connected for a little bit longer. And he brought his cable, so we started it all. And it started just fine, and so everything was more or less sorted. But I'm trying to pay him, right? How much should I pay him? How much should I pay you? He's like, oh no, it's free. It's free for you.
Isn't that incredible? Somebody's throwing crutches at us here.
But he said
we didn't just have a sudden miracle, did we? And you were throwing them away to one side.
He's jumping up and down. Miracles. But he said, don't you worry, I'll get it from Fernando.
Is that right?
Yeah. So they're just giving each other a hard time. They're just fooling around. So,
but that's a lovely vignette of Portuguese life as you're experiencing it.
He says, no worries, free for you, but I'll get it from him.
Fantastic. and you were able to just make one phone call. That person makes another phone call, and a mechanic is there.
If he can't fix it, then he knows somebody who can.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. So it really made me think.
And you struggled to give them any money. In fact, they wouldn't take any.
No, they wouldn't take anything.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You know, I came down. I went to go pick up Owen.
That's how life should be.
And then we came down here. So I was talking in the car with Owen, just saying, you know, this experience this morning, it's very stressful, and I need to, calma, just relax and get in a better headspace. But it was a really good experience to kind of crystallize a lot of things about coming to Portugal and adapting to the culture, and how important it is to have those friendships and connections, not with local people who know local people,
Yes.
And to be able to rely on each other. It's so easy in traditional Western culture to be very self-reliant and very emphasis on being independent and resourceful, which is important, and it has its place, but it also can lead to not being willing to ask for help when you need it.
Yeah. And that being quite awkward when you do.
Yeah. And so, they are. I mean, he's so willing to help. I'm so much in his debt. I mean, he's already helping me put in the garden, and like tomorrow we're going to get some trees and get the grass sorted and seedlings and all that. So it's like, oh my God, I definitely owe he and his wife Samira several dinners.
Excellent. Well, I hope you enjoy those.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm showing off some manly chest hair. What's hair chest? Would you like me to put it away, Michael? Is that what you're saying? Oh, we're onto the T-Duck cam as well. There we go. We're adding to the screen, and T-Duck will be off for a walkabout now.
Beautiful day.
So we'll get two angles on Sao Martinho do Porto, and we'll just be in the picture so you know what's going on. Okay, the manly chest hair has been put away. That's both of us, John, yeah. Hola from me and Amy. Hello, Rowan. Lovely to see you here. Please don't mind me. In fact, I think he was probably quite enjoying it. Ubi's here as well, as is Mark Bradbury. Brad, looking forward to showing you around this town. You'll get a little bit of a sneak preview if you stick around from top producer T-Duck. And Ubi is eating some leftover fish and chips. Living the dream, Ubi? Frozen, however, nothing fancy, but pretty good. I think he's just trying to bond with me as a British person talking about fish and chips there. I hope you're enjoying them. And Bob as well. Bob, we've seen you here a few times at the meetup. Hope you're doing well. Anything we can do for you today? So, yeah, of course, any questions of myself or John or the community here, do ask them in the chat, and enjoy the view, please, of Sao Martinho do Porto as we go on a walkabout with T-Duck. Yeah, I love that, John. You're really, that balance that you described there of how people can be very separate in this day and age, and how nice it is to create a network. And when as you were describing that, I was imagining some people would say, wow, that's what I remember my dad doing in the 70s or the 80s, like hanging out. He'd ring someone and someone would come and help. Whereas it's all in some cultures now, it's all about just calling a professional, isn't it? You don't call friends or friends of friends.
Well, the whole experience made me very reflective this morning. So we're having kind of a philosophical discussion with Owen on the way down, which is one of the great things about car trips is having good conversation.
Yeah.
But is an interesting dichotomy of having reliable friendships and community that you can rely on. I mean, besides Fernando, I was also trying to get a call to a friend named Neil, and trying to get it. And it's like, oh no, wait, Fernando's calling me back, and so I had people to go to, but at the very same time, I had this sort of conflicting feeling of being ill prepared. Like I didn't even have a set of jumper cables, and if you have a car, you should have a set of jumper cables, and it just hadn't occurred to me to do that yet. And one of the things about just for anyone coming to Portugal, trying to think of the type of person that would come, or come to a new culture, come to a new language, come to a new country to make new friends. It takes a certain type of person. I was thinking of like the immigrants that went to the New World back.
Yeah.
What type of family is it that would go to a new country, that would go to a new place that no one had ever heard of, where they didn't have any connections or ability to talk with their friends. So it takes a certain kind of sense of resourcefulness and independence and ability to be self-reliant, and those
and vulnerability,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But when you're there, then you have to learn to be dependent on one another.
Yeah.
So it kind of fosters this unique blend of interdependence, which is important, but also you need to be somebody that enjoys learning new things.
Yeah.
And enjoys
Being open, right?
being flexible and being self-reliant in a sense, like, well, how do I solve this problem? And, somebody's not going to solve it for me.
Yes.
I need if you're somebody that needs things to be done for you, then coming to Portugal or coming to a new country, that's going to be very difficult, right?
I think there are some parts of the country where that's more likely than others.
Yeah.
If you're heavily dependent on a service culture mentality, I guess you could in some ways experience that in Lisbon and the Algarve. But that's not my cup of tea. I mean,
even learning where to go to get those services.
Yes, yeah.
And because you don't just have somebody laying it all out for you.
No, true.
And there's so many things that you just take for granted, like, oh well, if I need to find a plumber, or if I need to find a mechanic, or I need to find an electrician, I could just look it up, and that's easier said than done now, because you don't know the language yet. You might not have the Portuguese friends network.
Yeah.
So as with many things in life, until the emergency happens, you don't really think about it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, in some ways, it is incredibly brave, isn't it? What people do to leave the culture they know,
and trustful.
Yeah. And the start afresh. And we in our day and age, we're very lucky, aren't we, compared to the people you spoke about historically, who really just threw themselves onto their new life. Have you?
I was just. I keep losing my cell phone. Okay. I thought I'd misplaced it or lost it earlier, and I ran over to the car and couldn't find it and came back. And Minnie, your daughter, she had put her dollies and
covered it up.
And covered it up.
I've taught her well. That's how we get all our phones.
It's like, where is my phone? And actually, I was just saying it to myself, but she heard me. It's like, oh,
I've got it hidden under my stuff.
It's like, oh, thank you.
Now, going back to your car, push start is not going to do it with a lot of modern cars, is it?
I don't think so.
It's semi-automatic, is it?
Well, I don't know what's semi-automatic. It's an automatic.
It's an automatic.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does have paddle shifting.
Yeah, okay, but you can't just put it into, you can't roll it in neutral and then slam it into gear and have it start like we used to in the old days. No, not going to work, Ubi.
No, I don't think they've built cars like that for a long time.
No, I think I've still got one like that. And incidentally, another nice little Portuguese vignette. Couldn't find my car keys. You couldn't find your phone. I couldn't find my car keys.
Oh, right.
They were in the car.
Yeah.
Fine.
Well, I guess that's one good reason to leave your car unlocked. If it was locked, then you'd be really stuck.
I would have been a bit stuck if it had been locked.
Now we all know that Carl leaves his car unlocked.
Yeah, if you do break into it, could you tidy it up as well? And there are a lot of French fries in there already waiting for you, but they could be weeks old in the back of the car, leftovers from the kids. Back in Wisconsin, says Barb Dietrich, but I will return to Portugal early 2024. We'll see you then, and we'll keep a seat for you here, Barb. It was really lovely to meet you in the last couple of months. I hope you had a productive trip. What are your fondest memories of being in Portugal, Barb? Do let us know while you're here, if you would. And if you've got any other questions or comments, a somewhat tangential conversation before I thank you for my fabulous book, John. How long does it take to save up and become a millionaire? Should we let people guess?
Yeah.
Let's have a couple of guesses. If you were to save £1 million from where you are now,
from 25.
Okay, so how long does it take a 25-year-old? And there will be some. It's kind of hot here. An Imperial will be fantastic.
Just agua fresca.
Agua fresca, nice cold water. Fizzy?
No.
Sangash. Portuguese is coming on nicely there, John. Yeah, let's say we're starting out at 25.
Yeah.
And there are some adjustments to make for your income, obviously. But somebody on an average kind of wage at 25. How long does it take them to become a millionaire?
Well,
And let's have some guesses, please, in the chat, if you will, and we'll come back to that. Sorry, did you want to add something to that?
No, I was just going to say this came about from sitting in the back of the
Portugal Business Club last night.
Night because they were having a discussion about this. So I just wrote down some math.
You did the numbers.
I did the numbers of what it would take just based on averages over the last 30, 40 years using in the U.S. what's called the S&P 500.
Yeah.
And just taking some conservative numbers from that and starting at age 25, what would be a reasonable, typical middle-class salary or early in your career salary and what
maybe you could Super Box today
to put aside. Oh, thank you so much.
Cheers.
And does anyone have any guesses?
We haven't got any guesses yet. Let's talk about the book. So how long does it take to become a millionaire from the age of 25? Your guesses, please, on that. And we've got a fabulous book. John's gifted me this book. And it is The First Templar Nation, is it called?
First Templar Nation by Freddie Silva.
Silva.
He's a Portuguese author. And I dedicated this for my very good friend, Carl. He's been so instrumental in making Pam and I feel welcomed in this wondrous and historically rich land.
Oh, bless you, John. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you've read it yourself?
I have.
Tell us about it.
I'm actually only halfway through. But yeah, I've always been interested in history and I've known some things about the Templars and Can
I get you a bit closer to the mic as well?
I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and you may have heard of them associated with the Crusades and going back from Jerusalem. But they're one of their first.
In your face.
Scary. But let me just read a little bit from the. It's going flat.
Droopy, yeah.
Droopy.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah. So this is just the introduction paragraph to whet your appetite. So, conventional history claims that 9 men formed a brotherhood called the Knights Templar in Jerusalem in 1118 to provide protection for pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. Overturning this long-established historical narrative, Freddie Silva shows that the Order of the Templar existed a decade earlier on the opposite side of Europe, but then the protection of pilgrims was entrusted to in a separate organization, and that in league with the Cistercian monks and the equally mysterious Order of Sion, the Templars executed one of history's most daring and covert plans, the creation of Europe's first nation-state, Portugal, with one of their own as its first king.
Isn't that great? So we find that we discover there that Portugal is Europe's first nation state.
Yeah. And is it Alfonso Enrique? The first king. He was a Templar knight, and many people forget that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. And is this around the epicenter of Tamar that a lot of the action takes place?
Well, it started actually up north.
Actually,
and you probably know of the Battle of Guimarães, where he fought his own mother.
Yes, I have heard. Yes,
famous origins of Portugal as a nation, as separated from the kingdoms of Castile and Leon, and became its own nation early in the 1100s.
Incredible. Ubi's interested in this. A point of order, possibly. First rule of Templars: there is no Templar order. Okay, it's a secret, maybe. And Diane's here as well. Diane, happy memories of being here with you at the Sao Martinho Do Porto meetup on a Wednesday. Lots of love to you and Jay, Diane. Yeah, give our love to Jay and to all your family over there. Thinking of you here on this beautiful day. You remember days like this in the Bay at Sao Martinho Do Porto, I'm sure. Fantastic. So there it is, the first Templar nation, Freddie Silva. Anything else that you've discovered in there that's delighted you about the history of Portugal?
Early on in the book, like I said, I'm only halfway through, the connections that Portugal and the early founding families had to France and to like Bernard of Clairvaux, and like I said,
I'm saying yes, like I know who you
that's
mean.
push. It's like
Push.
but yeah, the Cistercian monks were founded by he's a famous, well-known monk called Bernard of Clairvaux. And
Wish, I mean.
yeah, so anyway, just all the connections within Europe, and how all these different families and knights that knew each other and were interrelated, and uncles of this person and brothers-in-law of that.
Yeah.
It's quite fascinating. And then and I need to learn this more in depth because of the fact we're living here in Portugal, but the whole origins of basically a soap opera between Enrique Alfonso, first king, and his mother.
Yes.
She wanted to be queen and he wanted to be king, or he was supposed to be king, and they ended up going to war with each other.
Incredible.
And the
yes.
result was a country.
That sounds like Thanksgiving, really, doesn't it?
It's like, what can you do with certain relatives?
Yes.
Go to war.
We'll sort this out once and for all. Well, that's brilliant. Yeah, First Templar Nation, Freddie Silver's book there. And I think that's available from most good bookstores. John, great talking to you. What I'm really impressed by is how quickly you've made yourself at home here. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit, but I tend to try to try to fit in wherever it is that life finds me.
You're a seasoned traveler, aren't you, from the get-go, from being a child?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've literally been to every state in the U.S. and I've been to a good number of countries.
Yeah.
But starting as a child and on as an adult.
Yes.
Yeah. But I still only, unfortunately, sad to say, speak English. So I'm still working on.
You've got some nice outbreaks of Portuguese there, and that's coming on pretty well, isn't it? You go to a weekly class, conversational group.
Coming along, yeah.
But it is amazing how I think are so at home. Like your battery was flat this morning, you were able to ring someone and get some help.
Yeah.
So if we turn that into advice for people, is it about having that vulnerability to be helped?
It certainly is, and it's certainly not anything that I discovered on my own or anything. I've certainly watched a lot of YouTube videos, learned from my good friend Carl here, and there's been no end of good advice prior to coming here about the importance of community and the importance of connections and things. So I'm just taking the advice of my betters.
But it seems to be working. You're a natural here, and long may that continue. And all the best to you in your new home up in there in Ponte Lima. We haven't actually said anything about Ponte Lima, strangely, which often is the focus of our conversations, isn't it? I'm just sick of talking about how great that place is, actually.
I'll allow others to bring it up.
Okay. Well, lots of happiness to you and Pam there.
Yeah.
And we look forward to your developing garden project as well, because you're sharing the pictures of that with us, aren't you?
I am, slowly as we go along. So most of the irrigation's in, and so there's really only a few lines on the western wall to do. But boy, the view from the window this morning, getting up early in the morning with the sunrise and then the mist.
We had a misty start,
the mist along the river bottom.
Oh, beautiful.
And then of course, you have the mountains in the background. It's just this wonderful vignette of country life, small town, just the cockles crowing. It's just
stop it.
Yeah, you can get that many places, but it was a good start. The dead battery was put a little damper on that, but
down with a crash.
I wasn't in a good mood up to that.
You were back in the modern world, well and truly there, weren't you? Because that vignette you described there is timeless, isn't it? It's centuries and centuries old.
Yeah.
Whereas a battery going flat is only a phenomenon of the last 150 years.
Yeah, and that was probably in the back of my mind, is that I'm literally looking at something that people, thousands of years ago. Were looking
Yeah,
at the same
yeah.
thing.
Lucky you. The Templars
Yeah,
even.
yeah. Or the Roman Legion trying to cross the river.
What did they ever do for us, though, Johnny?
Yeah, what did they ever do for us?
That is a great story, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know we've told it once or twice before, but could you treat us to that?
Sure.
You know the background on that.
Yeah. I apologize. I've forgotten the name of the centurion that was leading the legion, but
But this is why the backstory is there is a public artwork, isn't there?
yeah.
By the bridge at Pontelima.
Well, it's one of the oldest. I mean, it's known as the oldest village in oldest incorporated village in Portugal. But one of its proud legends is the Roman legions when they were coming through Hispania or the Iberian Peninsula. Sorry, on their way, they came from the south north, and when they came to the River Lima, it wasn't named that then, but they must have come to it early in the morning or during some wintertime with the fog or the clouds, and it must have been sort of a dark and dreary night or day, and it just looked spooky to them because it was all misty and river and covered, and so it reminded them of like crossing the river to hell or something. And they had heard legends of if you cross this river, that you lose all your memories and you forget your loved ones. And so the legionnaires all refused to cross.
That's incredible.
And so the centurion, he had the brilliant solution. It's like, I will cross for you, and I will go, and you will see whether it's true or not. And so he crossed over, and he called back to his men and called them each by name to prove that there's no harm. This is just a river.
Fantastic, and that's immortalized in the sculpture, isn't it?
That's immortalized in the sculpture and the legend of that region.
So you've got the one centurion leader on the other side, and his massed ranks on the other side.
Hey, Bob, come on, Bob.
Come on,
hey,
good job
George.
you can remember their names, right?
Yeah. Good thing he's like, dang it. That would not be good if I forgot their names.
Maximus,
Maximus Littlest. Oh,
the biggest stickers. Okay, hola, boa tarde.
Gluteus Maximus.
Sir, hola, boa tarde from Jack Polly, the hostess of our Portimao meetup. How was it this week, Jack? Looking forward to bringing this kit to the Algarve one day. How about that, T-Duck? We do this in the Algarve at Portimao. All right. And Antonio F. is...
Yeah, bring wine.
Jack, do you have wine? T-Duck, top producer T-Duck wants to know if you have wine there. That'll make it worth his while. Looks like the weather is quite nice in Sao Martinho Do Porto. Not too bad, is
Beautiful day. Yeah.
Just like in Lisbon at the moment, apparently, from Antonio F. Thanks for being here. And Ubi. Hola, Antonio. And Jack saying it sounds good. It's a deal. There is wine in the Algarve, apparently.
Who knew?
So, it's pretty to do with the Romans again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, there's no Romans anymore. They've got. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, and there's wine and beer apparently down there, and Guinness I've heard as well. Quite a good. Are you going to be having a one or two Guinnesses on Friday, Jack? I wonder. We're going to be having a celebration here on Friday morning. We have got the unofficial ambassador of Ireland joining us on the show.
Oh, Deagle?
No, actually, a different one.
Oh.
But he would be United Kingdom, Deagle in Belfast.
Sorry.
No, not a problem.
Sorry.
No, not at all. I thought Deagle may well still be celebrating St. Patrick's Day, of course. But we have got Bobby O'Reilly, the unofficial ambassador of Ireland, joining
sponsors.
us. Yeah, and from Herder de Meyer from Dynasty Homes and Your Home joining us, and it's going to be a hoot. And I might have a Guinness on Friday morning. And Big Phil Cooklin is joining us as well. He used to work for Guinness, so he's got a few stories to tell.
I've been to the Guinness place in Dublin. There,
was it good?
It was. Went with a couple of friends. One of my friends, Dave, is a particular lover of Guinness, and so they gave us two full pints each free. And so I'm not a big beer drinker, so I had one. I had my pint, and then I gave him, which was his third pint. Yeah. So
It's a meal.
I'm more of a half pint.
It's a meal. It's in no way could you be described as half pint, John.
Well, this is what a quarter pint.
Well, the Imperial there, yeah. Cheers, everybody. Jack wants us to be there in May. Might be in the UK in April. All right, and no Guinness. Yuck. Diplomatic outrage. Good job. The Irish ambassador isn't tuned in right now. Jack, I said lovely. I do like a Guinness.
As beer goes, I do like a dark beer.
Yeah.
And that's just my upbringing, because in one of my childhoods, I lived in I lived in a stone, what they call it, a gatehouse.
All right.
And it dated back to like the 1700s. This is in Pennsylvania. And so we lived in the gatehouse, and the manor house was like a quarter mile down the lane, but it was a horse farm. And so, we could go there and help muck out the stalls and all that.
Fantastic.
And so
one of many great childhoods by the sound of it.
And the horses were fed oats and barley and that sort of thing. And so I learned to know the smell of horse urine. Which
is quite oaty and barley-ish.
Yeah, very oaty and barley-ish. Yeah, and yellowish and foamy.
Yes.
And so when I was at this,
quite the sound effect as well, right?
Yeah. So when I was at this bus stop once, I think it was like third grade. Somebody had seen an unopened can of beer. This is back in the 70s. So with those, they're like steel cans with the
with a ring pull that you could do stuff with,
where you could really slice somebody with those things. But anyway, they said to try this, and so so you picture a couple, a bunch of how old are you in third grade? What, like 8 years old?
Yeah, that's right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So
we're all
trying beer, and I was like, oh my god, so it's warm. It's been sitting in the sun, and it smelled and tasted. Not that I tasted horse urine, but it tasted like what I thought it would taste like.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I drank it, and I never tasted beer before at that point. So I was like, oh, this is horse piss. And it's like, this is
like you.
It's like, no, it's beer. It's like, no, this is horse piss. I know what horse piss smells like.
And that is why, everybody.
Yeah, that's
John prefers a Superbock Greta.
That's why I prefer a Guinness.
If you ever meet him,
at least I know what it is.
If you ever meet him, don't give him an Imperial, because you'll get that response. Superb. Okay, well, let's leave it there for now, because I think we can put the camera on and then maybe a bit of music, because we might have a walkabout. We might have another guest. We'll wait and see. And it's kind of hot. Raymond, ciao.
You're sitting in the sun, aren't you?
I am right in the sun. Hairy chest, bit of perspiration going on. It can't get more manly than this. I can assure you. Okay, so thank you, John. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the book. Yeah. Oh no! How long does it take a 25-year-old to earn not to earn, but to save $1 million? Or create $1 million.
Let's start with this. Let's start with the smaller one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So if you start at 25, and let's say your working a job, and your salary is £50,000 a year, $50,000. Right?
Yeah.
So 2% of that is 1% would be 500, right? So let's just do 1%. If you're able to put aside 1% of your salary, which is $500 a month, that would be $6,000 a year, all right? And so if you stay consistent and set a plan, and let's say you are starting with a nest egg of $10,000. So maybe you get it from your parents, or maybe you get it from your auntie or your grandma or whatever, but you're starting with a nest egg of $10,000 at 25. And the S&P 500 has grown on average around 12% a year, annually compounded for like 30 years. So some years more, some years less, some years negative, sometimes positive 20%. But over the many decades, it's averaged 12%. So let's go conservative. We'll say 8%. All right. So after the first year, obviously, 8% would be 10,800, and you'd add another 6,000, so you end up with 16,800 the next year. Well, you keep doing that, multiply by 8%, add 6,000, and you get the next number each year, and you go
compounding nicely at this point.
That's compounded growth. So by age 30, you'd have 50,000. Okay. By age 35, you'd have 110,000. By age 40, you'd have over 200,000.
Mhm.
By age 45, you'd have nearly 350. By age 50, you'd have 500,000. By age 55, you'd have 827,000.
Yeah.
And by age 58, you'd have 1,060,000.
Amazing, hey?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of compound interest.
Yeah. By age 60, if we just expand it just a little bit further, it's like I'm going to retire a little bit early, but not too. It's like you'd have 1,250,000.
Incredible.
Yeah, and that's just using the 10,000 and the 8%.
Yeah.
When you figure that, as you grow in your career, you're going to probably your salary is going to increase. You'll be in a better situation. You can probably contribute more than that 500 a month. And so if you're able to increase it and be a little more committed towards that end goal, it's quite easy. It would be quite easy to get to over 2 million.
Incredible. And that will have people who are tuning into this and hearing it later on saying, why didn't I do that when I was 20? Why do most people not do that when they're 20? Is it because they don't have that kind of vision and it's not taught at school?
It's financial literacy.
Financial literacy again.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about this, aren't we, at the moment?
I was fortunate. The first real job I had was one of these situations where they had a mentor that they assigned to you. And the mentor they assigned to me, I thought he was an old man. He was 55.
He was ancient, wasn't he?
So, but
his life was nearly over.
He had retired, and he used to be the CFO for RCA, which used to be a big tech company. I don't know if they exist anymore.
But still,
anyway,
it's still what an amazing legacy.
Yeah.
RCA, Victor, yeah.
But he had retired and wanted to work for this nonprofit that I was working for. He wanted to do something more voluntary on his time.
Yeah.
But he was my mentor, and he taught me these basic principles and just said, look, if you put away what you're going to save for retirement, for your investment, and think long term, think like 30 years from now, start it now, and put away as much as you can from your salary before you deposit it in the bank. Do the max that you can, and then live off the rest, and that sets your budget. So you set that aside first, and then you determine
you're paying your future self first.
That goes first, and then you figure out what size apartment I can afford, what type of car I can afford, and not the other way around. You don't just buy what you want and get the nicest apartment or the nicest car, and then
which is what most
left,
people do. Right?
You put aside. No, you pay your future self first.
Yeah,
and then you never know. You've never. He said, you do that and you'll never notice a difference.
Yes, and I imagine that was true for you, right?
Yeah,
you got into the habit and you didn't notice.
It's like, this is what we live. This is, so, okay, we got an apartment. It's plenty nice, nice enough. You can get a nice enough car.
Yes.
And then, you live off of that and you go.
Amazing.
But he
I've seen your nice enough car. Was it that cherry Datsun?
No. It was the Mini Cooper.
No, not now. The one in the picture that you said.
Yeah, that was that. That's exactly right. Yeah, it was the maroon Honda Civic.
Honda Civic. Okay,
yeah, that was my nice enough car.
Yeah.
Used. I think that picture was 1988, but the car I think was an 82.
Right.
Yeah,
well, you know what, we got My Dog Smells saying, "Oh, how I wish I had invested money like that when I was 25." Does it become too late, John, to have this level of financial?
No, I don't think so. I could use the same numbers, and I kind of switched
have a
it around.
10-year plan.
Yeah, it's like, look, if you start small, it's like, okay, well, I wanted to get to that. Well, look, you can. Let's say you don't get to that point until later. So let's say. Like I'd use that one that said by 25 and 8%. Let's say you were let's say you're 40 now. It's like, oh, I want to I'm rather than starting at 25, I'm starting at 40. Well, if you start at 40 with what the let's say 100,000, you'd be 10 years behind the other, but you are in a position maybe in life where you can start to put in a thousand a month.
Yeah.
And then, by the time, if you start with that level at 40, and let's say you have 20 years, so you'd have, you'd still be able to get there.
Still living Clover.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for that comment, My Dog Smells. Good to see you. And thank you, My Dog Smells, for your support as well. Appreciate that. Excellent stuff. Thank you so much for your support. My Dog Smells there, a YouTube member. Superb. Thank you. John, thank you very much. I think we need to go and sit in the shade for a little bit, don't we? Catch a bit of the breeze here. I'm a little bit cooked.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. Just a little bit, maybe. And
sitting
we'll
right in the
leave
sun.
you. We'll leave you with the pictures. onto the screen. Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Enjoying yourself? Are you enjoying the meetup?
Yes, I think mirrors
Mirrors what?
are important, aren't they?
Okay. Well, my response is, hi, Will. Very good afternoon to you too. Yeah, how are you doing? We are live from beautiful Sao Martinho Do Porto. Mrs. MC, ask us anything you like. How's your afternoon going? I mean, it's one of those hot and chilled afternoons, isn't it? Well,
yes.
I am. You're not anymore.
Yeah. We've had some really beautiful people here today. You know, really lovely people. Really
Tell me
nice
about them.
heart connection. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
The sun's shining, and there's a really nice buzz.
There is. Something's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, the last couple of days I felt a little bit like energetically, it's felt a little bit jittery, but
more
it feels
spring-like.
really smooth and.
What do you energetically jittery? You mean as in the world, the US bank situation?
Yes. Yeah, there's lots of changes going on at the minute, and I always think.
Do you think that might cause people to be a bit more outspoken in social media?
Quite possibly.
Right. Okay. You see, I would take that down it doesn't offend anybody.
I think it's worth keeping up because I think
there are some destinations I can't remove comments from. So they will have to stay there. I'm afraid. Sorry if that's offensive. If you see that and that's offensive to you.
Well, I think you know, in these like community broadcasts, you know, there is a responsibility for everyone that's watching. You know, there might be other people that might have something to say about that.
No, it might be. We'll see. We'll see. Tabitha's here. Tabitha Lindyboom.
It was a bit of a shock to see that.
Thank you for your recent company, Tabitha, on the Good Morning Portugal show. Really enjoy your company. Thank you for being there in the last 2 or 3 days. Certainly, you've been around, haven't you, and commenting in the chat. A lot from Miranda de Corvo. Do you know our wonderful Filomena who lives over that way, Tabitha? Thank you for being here. How is the weather in Miranda de Corvo? Are you getting that same spring-like vibe? This is definitely what we came here for, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
The weather as it is now, with me complaining about how too cold it is in the shade and too hot it is in the sun, is exactly the conditions that we came here for. This is the Portugal we signed up for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Mrs.
Sorry, I'm feeling a little bit shocked and a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. That's such a mean-spirited comment from Mr. Thompson.
Well, see if you can get unhooked. See if you get this. It's
because you know what, you've gone out of your way several times to help him, and it's only been his own rudeness that has stopped you from wanting to work with him. Of course, you've done so much to help him, and he has belittled you on any recordings. He has questioned you in a really derogative way, live on air, several times when you've given him opportunities to talk, and then he has the nerve to say that you are scared to have him on, or you won't, you know, like he dares you whilst also biting your hand at the same time.
But can we see how these are some of the things. Funny enough, here we are on a live stream in Sao Martinho Do Porto, having
a great time.
Yeah. But what we're going into here is more of the sort of stuff we would talk about on the new Barefoot broadcast.
Yeah, definitely.
And it is look, who is rude to you, lovely Carl? It is calor in Miranda de Corvo. But it is interesting, isn't it? And this is to me, it's so fascinating that if you follow energy, you cannot. It's like I don't want to be one of these people who says it's like quantum physics, but I'm going to say exactly that now. You know, you can't not affect an experiment you're observing. I think scientists, one of the scientific views has been that the scientists, like the journalists, think they're impartial. Yeah. But their very being in the energy field of what they're looking at affects what they're looking at and the whole situation. And it's like, I'm seeing this. Well, of course you're seeing it. If you weren't there, you couldn't see it. Yes. And by being there to see it, you are affecting it as well. And that's what could happen here, isn't it? Is if we whatever we concentrate on within the scheme of the broadcast and whoever's here, that takes us in a certain direction, doesn't it?
You are right. I mean, that is why we are also working on our other channel, the Barefoot Broadcast, which takes us back to where we started from, which is just to have a space where we can have a conversation. Yeah. You know, and actually have a safe space to have these kinds of conversations, you
Mm.
know, because like you're actually quite daring, I think, in terms of inviting people to
Well, how about that?
chat who are slightly controversial at times, or whose opinions you might not even agree with, and some that you do who are also controversial.
Yeah.
You're really quite an equal ops person, and so I really like the idea of the Barefoot Broadcast.
I mean, I guess you find out where your boundaries are
Yeah, you do.
ultimately, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
Don't you? So, you know, there you go. That's life.
Yeah.
Hola, all. Hey there, Antonio F. from Nubianet. Nubianet's joining us again.
Oh,
Lovely
hey.
to see you here in this context.
Hey, Nubianet, we've got a new show called the Barefoot Broadcast.
You might like it.
Yeah, I think
You
you might
might
like it.
It's not
Come
everyone's
join
cup
us.
of tea. It's a broadcasting Marmite.
Yeah, but
Quite
it's
possibly,
more in
isn't
your
it?
time zone.
Yeah.
It's we're doing it like around about midnight at the moment in our time zone.
Mm.
So it's an hour sooner than what time you watch the Saturday night show.
We have gone very barefoot broadcaster here. Thank you, Tabitha. Exactly. It's very easy to say it's not you, it's them. I'm more used to saying it's not you, it's me.
Yeah, we both normally look at our own behaviour first, actually.
But it can still hurt. I send compassion to rude people
Yeah.
because rudeness comes from fear. And if that doesn't work, 3 large men with base.
Like your style, Tabitha. Thank you so much.
I wasn't expecting that last bit at the end. Yes. Namaste first, and then to follow up with
Yeah.
if necessary.
Yeah.
Do you want to say any more about that? Barefoot
What?
Broadcast. You've got kids who want you.
Yes, I do.
Do you want
So
to
I
do
should.
a quick plug for the Barefoot Broadcast?
Yeah. Basically, it's a place where we chat, we have fun. It's almost like a date night for us because we get to look into each other's eyes across the studio. But hopefully that doesn't make you gag. We kind of review what's come up, what's arisen for us in the day, and you know, everything's a talking point, everything's a discussion. And I think, you know, from our perspective, the discussion is everything. We've got loads of guests lined up that we're going to be interviewing. In fact, I'm interviewing a really amazing healer tomorrow afternoon, which is going on the channel. She's been on the channel before, actually.
Her name?
Siobhan Nicolau.
Okay.
She's really amazing, really astute, a really strong master channel and healer and author. She's really good. And I've got Rick Purcell, who is an awakened being, who's also a top coach in Bali. So there's loads of people coming on, and we're quite excited about it. So, but we want it to be kind of fun, you know, like the sort of like new age can get a bit up itself, can't it, and be a bit worthy and be a bit too serious, and we just want to have a bit of fun with it, and
we call it
also challenge ourselves.
We call it light relief on Planet Shit Show.
Yeah.
Is another way of putting it. Pardon our French. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Sings anti-hero Taylor Swift, says Ubi. How are those fish and chips going down over there?
Hey, Ubi.
Yeah.
So anyway, I should go and help one of our...
We'll go back to the view. We'll go back to the view of Sao Martinho Do Porto. Thank you for popping in.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
be Owen. Hello, mate. Great to see you here.
And you.
Fantastic to have you here. A nice spring-like day. That must have been quite a nice drive.
Back to 5 on Carl. Yeah, it's been brilliant.
Tell us a bit more about life in the north. Then you are of course a British northerner.
I am.
Are there those sorts of parallels? Is it like that? Is the same thing going on here as it goes on back in the UK?
Yeah.
Really?
I would agree so. I mean, it's
Jojo.
it's like the same. I mean, there's always that thing that's said in the UK, you know, that and listen, this is just something that's been going on for years. Is that when you go to the south of the UK, is that people will very rarely stop and talk to you. If we use the underground as an example, people would rather stay in the paper than say hello and good morning. Whereas in the north, people would say around and say hello, good morning, and somebody would reply back. So I suppose as well with myself as well, it's a sense of community that's up there in the north as well. Whether it be expats, whether it be the Portuguese people themselves, it's let's put it this way: the north of Portugal is welcoming with open arms, and that's what I really like.
A bit like the North would do in the UK.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'd like to think in Lisbon, people are a little bit more friendly than they might be in London.
Yes,
And I guess it is also down to us, to us all, if that's how we want our neighbourhood to be. You've got to lead the way with that, haven't you?
Yeah, and that is obviously a personal opinion of my own.
It's well founded. It's well founded. I can't, as a southerner, I can't argue with that. I left London in my early 20s to go and live in Sheffield, where I said exactly the same thing. You know, men calling you duck on the bus.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong, can you?
Hello, love.
Yeah, love.
And that's a man talking to another man.
It is another. All right, my duck. In Nottingham, that's just how they roll, and it's such a fascinating thing. This north-south divide. Other similarities. We know that the north is industrial manufacturing powerhouse for I only said Sheffield, for Portugal as well.
It is. It's amazing. The handmade furniture that I've seen, whether it be bedroom furniture, everything else, that is big.
Made in Portugal.
Made in Portugal, especially if you go towards Valencia. I took a trip with John. Funny enough, it was on earlier. So you have a look at a few furniture shop stores up there, and it's just great the way that they treat the customers. You would go in and you would see the furniture that they have on offer.
Yeah.
And you go to choose something, and they say, right, how would you like it? So everything's bespoke. That's you know, and it's amazing, and it's that sense. I don't know, from the nearly 6 years since I've been here, I've had that. Well, I suppose that sense of community has been reignited in me as well, and personally, in my own self, I've kind of found myself again.
Marvelous
as well, and I think being in the north has done that, because I have as you say, an association with the north of the UK.
Did you have any reason to think you'd be going to the north of Portugal, or was it just a mystery to you previously?
Well, it's strange really, because like I say, I've been here nearly 6 years now, and when originally myself and my ex-wife were looking for properties in Portugal, without even seeing properties in Portugal, the north of Portugal was out of the question.
But it just like a non-place.
It was a non-place, because we listened to preconceived ideas and other people's opinions about the climate in particular.
Too cold.
And they were saying it was too cold. It was too cold. Now, I've been, as you know, when you've done the weather reports on Good Morning Portugal, and we've said it's been raining, and it's been raining for 2 months now. But, you know, because of the amount of sunshine that we do get here in Portugal, is that I've taken that on the chin. In fact, for me, you'll know from GMP, we're showing you the photographs of the otters and the wildlife.
Yes.
That's the thing that has been reintroduced back into my life again, which is something I used to do back in the UK, was, being in nature and everything else. And being there has soothed my soul.
A renaissance for you then, courtesy of Portugal. Another gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that fantastic? A couple of things I want to ask you about, if I may. Olá, boa tarde. Tudo bem? The food alchemy, I think that's going pretty well as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
It's going really, really well. Although I missed doing the live slot on a Wednesday.
So much fun, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, good fun with Galvo and Terry. But I've just started to do a Monday lunch club, because where we are in Ponta de Lima, is that most of the bars and restaurants are closed on a Monday.
Yeah.
So what we've done now is that it's not just me just cooking, is that we have a venue, and then we would have somebody go and cook, and we have a group of people, whether it be expats and Portuguese as well. We all meet up and we all sit around and have a chat. But we're extending that actually to the summer months now, and using the facilities of the barbecue. As we have the barbecue.
The Parc de Merendas as well.
Exactly that.
So you make sure you meet on a Monday.
It would be a Monday because
Right.
like I say, the restaurants and the bars are the restaurants certainly are closed on a Monday, so there's nowhere really for people to meet, and it's a nice little gathering.
But maybe some bars and restaurants will open specially for your Monday lunch club.
They would. Please get in touch with me at oinsfoodalchemy.com.
This is a replicatable model for all of Portugal.
Absolutely.
And a way for foreigners, immigrants, expats to socialise and create a network.
It is the best way because, as I've found, people are very willing to open up their homes for people to come along and meet.
So what's the requirement? A group of people and taking it in turns to host the group.
Yes, and I mean,
or even say we're going to meet at this picnic area.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
I mean, you speak to my very, very lovely friends, and if you're watching in good old Blighty in London, Bob and Viv, Bob and Viv are starting to do their tours, but also
so confusing, mate. They're from Colorado. They live in Ponte Lima, and now they're in London.
That's it. That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
But Bob himself is wanting to do minibus tours.
Yeah.
So this is the other thing that we want to introduce is that when we have a group of people in a minibus, we find ourselves a nice little beautiful spot where we can look over the countryside or the sea, and a lunch is provided as well.
How about that? That sounds wonderful. Keep us up to date on that, if you will.
Absolutely.
Portuguese. She's not bothered, is she? This lady crossing the road?
No, there's a car, love.
It's all right. The car driver's fine about it as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
it's all good. It's all good. No one's bothered. It's probably a very important text message. And this other thing, knowing you as I do, I can't not talk about this. The spicy times, I'm going to call them. You and I moved to Portugal in a similar time frame, or with a similar sort of history, 5-6 years ago, and we came here for a certain way of life, level of frequency, energy, consciousness that we were told existed here, or that we discovered did, and we wanted to experience that on a longer term basis, and we did. In the early days, didn't we? And then a few things changed. One thing and another.
Would that be 3 years ago, perhaps?
That 1 month that repeated itself.
Oh yeah. I see it now.
24 times. And the world has changed beyond. See, we didn't know about any of this, did we? I mean, you could have had a sense of something 5 or 6 years ago. And clearly now, 5-6 years later, the world has changed, not beyond all recognition, because this hasn't changed.
No.
Nature hasn't changed much. The bay hasn't changed much. The otters haven't changed. Humanity's changed a little bit, hasn't it?
100%. 100%. How can I say it? 3 words.
Go on.
The Great Divide.
Right. And that has become a widening chasm, do you think?
I would say so. And once again, this is just a personal opinion, is that it depends where you're looking for your information.
Yeah.
It's a shame that this divide, whether it be within the family, whether it be between friends, is that something has been introduced on this planet, I will say, that has made people go in their different directions.
And you'd have to be quite the impervious person to refute that in the way that Owen has just put it.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have to look far for the evidence of that phenomenon, and it's quickening.
Yeah, it is quickening, and for me, myself, I mean, I've talked to you about this before in regards to, if we look at social media, for an instance, for myself, and on a personal experience with having, let's say, hackers go into my account, is what I've looked at. That although for me, losing in particular my photographic memories and the memories that I've shared with people, I look at it on the other side as well, is that it's made me reassess where I want to be, in the sense is that what I put out there, I would no longer, maybe 1 or 2 things, would put things on a personal level, where the things I like to put out now, if it is social media, would be about love, life and happiness. He says, wearing the Dawn t-shirt.
With your merch on.
Because I think with the things that is going on in the world now is that if people take a step back and look within, is that they're the things that really do matter.
Well, that's the other bit. You see, I'm not meaning to moan or bring attention to something negative unnecessarily, because whilst that's, and I would agree with you, and as I said, I think it would be difficult for anyone to disagree with you on that. That is a world trajectory, if you like, isn't it? A path that the world seems to be on. At the same time, you and I were talking earlier about, you seem to be heartened, as I am, by the amount of togetherness. So the big divide on the one hand in the world, and yet we're finding, aren't we? And I think this country and its culture have a big part to play in it. A nourishing backdrop for community, connection, and the kindling of relationships and friendships and networks that could provide quite a positive picture of the future.
But this can happen anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
This can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think if we're not distracted by what's being put out there, is that once you walk outside your door, it's amazing how quickly you will realize that it's right in front of you.
Yes, because you could easily run with the big divide narrative, couldn't you?
Easily,
because it's being given to you quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if I look from an outside point of view, if we look at current events anywhere, is that sports are being involved with politics, and I think that's what I want to say. Everything's being politicized.
Yes,
and what we're not doing is looking at one another and each other for the answers, because we do have it, but are we prepared to listen to it?
And instead of connecting directly, we are battling it out which ideology is the right one for all of us to follow.
Yes.
It doesn't seem to be working out so well.
I mean, the only person that we could particularly follow is that person that's in the mirror.
Yeah.
You know, rather than hearing something or being told something or sent something that has triggered somebody else.
Yeah, and that is so nourishing and so dynamic,
as
far as I'm concerned, the fact that we can choose.
Yeah, and that's what it is. I mean, it
takes a bit more work though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm not going to say about my story here in Portugal and the things that I've gone through, and not to dwell on it, but I've always looked at it with a smile on my face. Because at the end of the day, it's the life that I'm living and the life that I choose to live.
Yeah.
And I suppose when you're not following a narrative, when you are being you,
writing your own story,
exactly that.
It's a big responsibility, and you can understand why people don't necessarily want to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think there's only so much you can take before you start to realize that, hang on, I should have turned left before turning right.
Yeah. And it's not the baby boomer era, is it? Where if you did take the blue pill, some of the outcomes were quite nice, weren't they?
Yeah, quite right.
Give them some good blue pills with some good outcomes.
Absolutely that. Do you know? I know you've been sat there, and the sun's shining straight through. I should have really brought that cream and just gone makeup.
Giving me a little bit of a slather. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning with one side. This is not the first time it would have happened either. It's a bit like falling asleep in the garden after a few beers in the sun for me. And I wake up with this really one red side of my face and slightly sore red side of my face. That might happen today. But it's been worth it, because it's been, here I have been hanging out with fantastic people, including yourself, Owen. Great to see you here.
It's been great.
Any parting thoughts? You know, there is a little bit of a shaky time going on, I think, globally. The government have done quite a good job of unsettling people when it comes to some of the political policies recently. What you know, from where you are and your picture you paint upon Lima, it's all looking very rosy.
Have faith in yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Have faith in yourself. As you know, I spent a lot of time with Don Jacqueline.
Yeah,
and I remember,
absolutely.
I remember that God was a big part of her life, and in particular, in the last few months, has been a big part of my life as well.
Interesting.
You have to look into yourself, look to God.
Yeah,
because it's strange, but the answers are there.
Yeah, well said. Joanna, thank you for being here. See you next Monday. Okay, that's a GMP guest. Anna will be joining us again next Monday, talking about how easy it is to learn Portuguese if you go about it in a
Não faz mal.
You should tune
Não
in,
faz
mate.
mal.
You should tune in. But
Yeah.
I don't want to detract from the poignancy of what you were just sharing with us, and I'm sure that'll be a comfort to people.
It is. I mean, Portugal is a beautiful, beautiful place, and the community of people that are here. My life has become so much more wholesome because I've
lovely
looked into
word.
myself and looked into my surroundings and where I am. And as I said before, you don't have to be in Portugal to experience that. You just have to realise that the answers aren't always.
I can't.
On that TV
I
screen.
can't stop this interview. I need to ask you more about God. The big divide and the battle for dominant ideology, which seems to be the stock in trade of the media, the culture wars, all of that sort of stuff. That's one thing. That's the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
The demonic and devilish world, you could say, of polarity and binary and that which always makes you choose a side. You use the word wholesome, and I want to just probe a little bit more about what because God again can be reduced to ideology, can't it? Religion can be ideology. I don't think you mean that though, do you?
No. So somebody mentioned the other day that it's a belief system, but for me that's moving away from not necessarily the Bible, but the whole religion side of it.
The industrial.
Yeah, I had an instance a few weeks ago.
Do you mind talking? Are you all right talking about this? Because it's not always comfortable for people talking about that.
Okay. I can literally tell me where it actually came from.
Okay.
I woke at 4 a.m. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, and for all intents and purposes, there were black entities, as in black shadows, circling above my bed.
Yikes!
But the thing is that I woke up with a heavy pain on my chest. Now, as you know, I've had heart attacks in the past, and it was a similar sort of feeling.
Terrifying.
And I can't, the words. I've lost the words at the moment, but I did actually turn around and say, I am a son of God. The light is always better than the dark. You are not welcome here. Please leave. And from that moment made me realise is that there was somebody there protecting me, because those words, they weren't the actual words I said, but the words that came out of my mouth at that time is a well-known phrase to use to get rid of dark and demonic entities.
Right.
And I can only say that it was God that told me to say it.
Yeah.
I can only say that because the words came out of my mouth fluently, albeit I can't remember. But I will say that's down to having 2 bottles of Super Bock, which I don't normally drink this time of the afternoon now. Exactly. But
would you describe Super Bock Prato as a dark entity?
Very much so. Have you seen the colour of the bottle?
But again, I'm not meaning to undermine or detract from what you're saying.
But it was that moment alone that made me realise. Now, I remember as a child that before going to bed, we used to always say a prayer.
Yeah.
Lord, keep us safe this night, secure from all our fears. May angels guide us while we sleep till morning light appears. I now say that every night.
Do you?
I do, because, and it's not just because of the religious side of it. It's because of the things that are going on in the world. The other thing that I always do, I sit out on a clear night in particular, and I thank the universe for my day. I ask it to protect my friends that I know and for the people that I don't know as well. Things are changing on a massive scale in the world now. And if I can do my little bit just to keep people safe, I will continue to do that.
Beautiful, mate. I wasn't expecting to have this conversation. And of course, the idea of God, whatever you call it, the creator, the divine intelligence, the all, the everything, the isness, whatever words people
source,
have,
whatever,
source, the universe. That is not an opposite to something else, is it?
No.
By definition, if it's everything, it hasn't got an opposite.
There
is no choice to make,
exactly
is there?
that. And that's the way that you should see it. That's the way that you should look at it. There's nothing better than God, and that's what Jacqueline taught me.
Yeah.
There's no better love than God's love.
Yes. Yeah. So if the word God triggers you, it's possible to think of it as the everything, isn't it?
Everything.
Instead?
Exactly. It doesn't have to be.
It's
God.
that which excludes nothing.
It's that makes you feel happy, Carl.
Yeah. Well, that's where you can generate peace, love, and all the things that we do associate on a good day. Yes. Love, life, and happiness. That's where it comes from, isn't it?
Exactly that.
And we can take it or leave it, I suppose.
Exactly. Life has a funny way of dealing with dealing your curveballs. Depends on the size of the bat that they're using, Cal, to deal with it.
Yes.
You
Get
know?
a bigger bat.
Get a bigger bat.
Is a bit of advice
That's
from
it.
you.
Get a bigger bat.
Because those balls aren't going to be stopping, are they?
Let's not talk about balls
No,
right now.
but life, I don't think the curveballs are going to be stopping
No,
anytime soon.
they're
are they?
not. And I think they're being thrown from all angles as well.
And so you need to get a bigger bat. You need to be good with the bat.
And get a bigger glove.
Put your skills in that department.
Absolutely.
Train,
Absolutely.
train, and rely on a community. Create, and rely on a community.
But most of all, rely on yourself.
Yeah.
And look after yourself. Look after those that love you. Look after those that are close to you. Because at the end of the day, it's all we have.
Boom. Okay, I think we'll leave it there now. We'll leave a universal view because me and Owen here are just mere fragments of the universe, aren't we?
And we're getting quite scorched.
I'm a burnt fragment of the universe. like
We've been
a
charcoalized.
meteorite initiating life on another planet. It'd been great to talk to you, mate. And we'll leave you for a bit longer with that view of debate. Safe journey home and speak to you soon. Lovely to see you, man. Bye.